Hey yo, my name is Rylan, and my poet is Jen Betty. Jen Betty is a name you might not hear as often as other poets, but her work has had a profound impact on American poetry. Born in Pittsburgh in 1952, Betty grew up in a working class family, and much of her poetry is deeply shaped by the experiences of that environment. Her early life was marked by challenges, including financial hardship and a complex family dynamic. Betty's father worked as a truck driver, and her mother was a strong, hardworking woman who often had to balance the demands of family with the constraints of their circumstances. These experiences are woven throughout Betty's work as she explores themes of identity, class, love, and loss. After graduating from the University of West Virginia, Betty initially pursued a career outside of poetry, working various jobs including a waitress, counselor, and social worker, but also always holding on to her love for writing. In the 1970s, she began to take her writing more serious and attended the University of Pittsburgh, where she earned her MFA in creative writing. It was during this time that she truly began to find her voice as a poet, fusing personal experience with a broader sense of the world. Her poetry is often described as raw, visceral, and unflinching. In her collections, like The Switched Yard and Bone Shaker, Betty doesn't shy away from life's darkest moments. She writes with an urgency that reflects her need to make sense of pain, desire, and personal growth. In my paper, the research was guided by this statement. In Jan Betty's poems, My Father Teaches Me to Dream, Bone Shaker, Shooter, Red Sugar, and The Body Wars, she portrays the journey to self ownership through the challenges of this world, the relationship reflections, the depiction of grit, and the complexities and struggles of individual identity. Here are some of the covers for the poems that I used in my research. Jan Betty's poetry doesn't just capture the world around her, it explores the inner landscape of relationship, the grit of survival, and the intricate process of forging one's identity in a complex world. If there's one thing her work does, it's to dive deep into the emotional and psychological landscape of human connection, offering no simple answer, but instead shedding light on the raw complexities of being human. Her poems explore the tensions and beauty of relationship. They're fragile moments between lovers, family, and friends. Betty doesn't shy away from the pain, the distance, or the longing that often defines these connections. She captures those raw, sometimes difficult exchanges, showing us love and hurt often coexist in the same place. In the quiet hours, I can feel the weight of your absence, like an unspoken question lingering in the space between us. How did we become strangers again? Betty's exploration of relationship goes beyond mere romantic love. Her poems are filled with reflection on how we define ourselves through our connections to others. In a sense, her writing is a way of saying who we are is always in flux, shaped by the people around us, but also by the choices we make and how we respond to those people. Betty's work embodies grit, an unflinching, often uncomfortable truth about the hard edges of life. It's in these voices of those struggling to rise above their circumstances, to redefine themselves, to fight through the noises and confusion. Her characters aren't afraid to get their hands dirty, to confront their darkest moments head on. And through them, we feel the strength it takes to survive and even thrive in a world that often seems to push back. What makes Jen Betty's work so compelling is the way she merges these themes: relationship, grit, and identity. Her poems ask essential questions about who we are, how we define ourselves, and what it takes to stand tall in the face of adversity. She reflects on what it means to be vulnerable, to be strong, to love fiercely, and at times painfully. In Betty's world, identity is not something static. It's something we wrestle with, something we grow into, something we must fight for. And it's this struggle, this constant redefinition of self that speaks to all of us who have ever questioned our place in this world. Jen Betty's poetry takes you to the heart of what it means to be human, flawed, resilient, and ever changing. On a deeper note, Betty's poems give voice to those moments of silence. When it feels like the world has stopped listening, She shows us that we're not alone in our pain, that others have walked the same difficult path, and that there is always something to be found in those dark spaces, even if it's just the smallest flicker of understanding or connection. Her writing gives permission to be vulnerable, to confront those difficult emotions head on, and yet still move through the world. Betty's work is a testament to the grit it takes to keep going, to persist when the weight of the world feels like too much. For those who may be struggling with thoughts of suicide or deeper despair, reading Jen Betty's poetry can remind you that there is always a way forward, even if it's hard to see. It might not offer easy solutions, but it offers something invaluable, a sense that you're not invisible, that your pain is real and it matters, and that even in your darkest moments, there is room for hope and connection. With suicide rates of close to 1 million people per year worldwide, Jen Betty could be a small puzzle piece in bringing that number down. Explore Jen Betty's poetry. It might just offer the connection, the understanding, or the spark you need to keep going. Her words remind us that we are all a part of something larger, and that even in the hardest moments, there is still room to breathe, to speak, and to heal.